moving along, where we got up to yesterday was chapter 9, verse 23, and we were talking about the sin of Noach's son, Ham, in English, Ham, and what exactly happened. So, to remind ourselves, Noah comes out of the ark, he plants the vineyard, and after planting the vineyard, he drinks and he gets drunk and he uncovers himself in the tent. And Ham, the father of Canaan, saw the nakedness of his father and he told his two brothers outside. Rashi says yesterday, what does it mean he sees their nakedness? Rashi gives two explanations. Either he castrated him or else he had intercourse with him. Now we're up to verse 23. Vayikach Shem vayefet es hasimla. So Shem and Yefet took the clothing, or they took a garment, vayasimu al shechem shenehem, and they put it on their shoulders, vayalchu achoranit, and they walked backwards, vayachasu eser vas avihem. They walked backwards and they covered the nakedness of their father. So, I'm not sure what's going on here. Upaneim achoranit, and their faces were backwards, vervas avim lo ra'u, and they did not see the nakedness of their father. What is going on here? What is going on here? Now let's see what Rashi says. Rashi says as follows. Vayikach Shem vayefet et hasemah. Rashi says it's not written and they took, but rather and he took. We made al Shem shenit ametz b'mitzvah. This teaches us that Shem is the one who exerted himself in the fulfillment of the mitzvah. Yoser mi Yefes, more than Yefet did. Makach zachu banav. That's why his children were privileged. V'talis shel tzitzis. That's why Shem's children, i.e., the Bnei Yisrael, were given the mitzvah of tzitzis. Mitzvah of tzitzis is a special mitzvah to help us. It's like we're spiritual royalty, and also to help us from doing sexual sins. We're supposed to hold the tzitzis. The Yefet, now Yefet, Zachol Kfuro Levanav. Yefet merited the burial for his children. As it states, hello there, Etain Legog Makom Sham Kever. I will give, Etain Legog Makom Sham Kever. I'll give to Gog a place there for a tomb. V'cham, so Gog is a descendant of Yefet, and Yefet, as a result of this, was allowed to be, his children were allowed to be buried in the land of Israel. A place there for a tomb. V'cham, whereas Cham, Shebiza Aviv, who disgraced his father, Nemar Bazar, it said of his offspring, Kenyan Hag Melch Ashur et Shavi Mitzrayim. Thus will the king of Syria lead the captives of Egypt, Ve'et Galut Kush, and the exiles of Kush, Naram Uzikenim, Arum V'yachef, V'chasufe Shes. About Cham it says, thus will the kingdom of Syria lead the captives of Egypt and the exiles of Cush, the young ones and the old ones, tattered and barefoot. So, hello there, Eitan. So, that's the three children. Cham's offspring are sent into exile. Shem's offspring become the Jewish people. They wear the tzitzis. And Yefet's offspring who are allowed to be buried in the land of Canaan. We're on chapter 9, verse 23. Upenehem achoranit. And their faces were turned backward. Rashi says, Lama nemar pam shniya. Why does it say in this verse twice that their faces were backwards? It says they walked backwards and their faces were backwards. Why does it say it twice? Milamed shekishek karvu etzlo muitzruchu hafoch atzmam lechasoto hafchu pneihem achoranit. It teaches us that when they came close to Noach and they needed to turn themselves in order to cover him, they turned their faces backwards so as not to view his nakedness. That is just being very explicit about how they did it. They got there and then they turned around. Okay. So now,
Rabbi, I don't have the hand option, so I just wanted to add that there's 4 cemeteries in Israel that were given by the people of, I guess, Palestine, to bury all the British officers and soldiers who were killed in World War One. So what you said about having a kever in the land of Israel was, thank God, already fulfilled. So
beautiful. Eli, you need a chumash. Yeah. Good afternoon, my friend. Kobe, we're chapter 9, verse 23. What page is that, Aviva? 51. Page 51. Vayiketz Noach miyeno. Noah woke up from his slumber. Vayeda et asher asalo b'Noach katan. He knew what his younger son had done to him. Which was what? How did he know? It must have been that's why Rashi says this explanation that they either castrated him or they had intercourse with him. Vayomer, and so now Noah is going to curse his son. You ever hear of the curse of Canaan? This was used, it's very controversial, it was used by many preachers to justify the slavery of blacks in America. This is obviously wrong and horrible, but that's what it was used for. But slavery for much of human history was perfectly legal and acceptable. You don't see like the abolitionists until like the modern era. And it's crazy, but even Jews were slave owners, obviously deeply, repugnant and horrific, but even Jews were slave owners. So Vayomer Or Canaan Eved Avadim Yelechav. And so he said, cursed be Canaan. He will be a slave of slaves. To it, she shall be to his brothers. Why is he cursing Canaan? So Rashi yesterday told us, because Canaan is the one who started it all, because he saw this and he told his father. He saw that Noach was drunk and he told his father. So Rashi says, he told his brothers. No, he told his father. Canaan's father was Ham. He saw that his Noach was drunk and he told his father. You got that, Rabbi Yosef? So,
sorry, I thought you were talking about what happened afterwards. Sorry.
So now he says, why did he curse Canaan? So this is what Rashi says. Noach says, Ata garamtoi, you caused me shalo olid ben revi'i acher. You caused me that I can't have another son. Why? Because even according to the opinion that says that he had intercourse with him, nevertheless, everybody agrees that they castrated Noach. Both opinions agree that way. So therefore we say that he's saying, because you caused me to not be able to have a fourth child to serve me, who's going to serve me? So therefore, Ar bin Haravi liot mishamesh et zaram shal elu hagadolim sheutuoem torah avodasim me'ata. He said, because you cursed me that I can't have another child because you cut off my reproductive member. So therefore, nobody's going to be able to take care of me. Therefore, your fourth child will have to take care of the ones who have to take care of me. So why did Cham castrate Noah? He said to his brothers, Adam Arishon Shnei Vanim Ayolel. Adam had two sons, and yet one killed the other. Bishvil Yerushas Olam, because of the inheritance of the world. Ve'avinu yeshlo shlosha banim, v'odenim levakish ben Revi. He said Adam had two sons, and he killed one so as not to split the inheritance of the world. Crazy. He says, so now you want to have a fourth son? We don't want to split up the world four ways. They had the whole world in front of them. They had the whole world. That's why they did it. Crazy. Insane. That's the power of jealousy and ego. I don't want to share the whole world with a fourth child. So they castrated their father. That's just a crazy concept. So, Vayomer, Baruch Hashem Elokei Shem. And he said, blessed is Hashem, the God of Shem. V'hi Chanan Eved Lamo. And let Canaan be a slave to them. Rashi says, why is Hashem the God of Shem? Because Hashem is going to keep his promise with them to give to them the land of Canaan. And Canaan will be a masoved, a servant for them forever. Okay. Now
it's very profound. Even the people who pretended to be from faraway land, Joshua made them into slaves.
Oh, exactly. Wait, I want to tell everybody something. I'm going to have to stop the recording for this. You're going to like this story. So the next verse says, Yaft Elokim hu Yefet, v'yishkon ba'olei Shem, v'hi Chanan Eved Lamo. So Chanan is not only a slave to Shem, he's also going to be a slave to Yefet. It says, Yaft, God may extend Yefet, and he will dwell in the tents of Shem, and Canaan will always be a slave to him. Let's see what this means. Yaft Elokim hu Yefet, Meturgam Yafti Yarchiv. The word Yaft is extend. That's how Uncos translates it. And V'yishkon ba'olei Shem, he may rest his divine presence upon Israel. Meaning to say, Rashi is saying that God's presence will rest in the tents of Shem, but there's a midrash here. What does the midrash mean? The midrash says, although God will grant beauty to Yefet, Shebana Koresh Shayamimene Yefet Bayit Sheni, for Cyrus, who was the descendants of Yefet, built the second temple. Lo Sharta Bo Shlina, the divine presence did not rest on the second temple. The divine presence only rested on the first temple, which the descendants of Shem built. So it's a very powerful idea in Rashi. The second temple, God's presence did not rest on it. He only rested on the first temple. So, and it says, V'yichanan Eved Lamo, even when the children of Shem will be exiled, the slaves will be sold to them from the children of Canaan. So it is a fact that many Jewish people were involved in the slave trade in the Middle Ages. It's just, there were slaves. There were slaves throughout medieval Europe. There were slaves in pre-modern Europe. I don't know when slavery became abolished in Europe, but it probably was Not that much more for the Civil War. Can you do a Google search, Rabbi Yosef? When was slavery abolished in England? Maybe it was in the 16th century. What?
Around the same time, because there was a group of women that ate salt instead of sugar because of the trade in Jamaica. But even though Jews were involved in the trade, they were much, much, much nicer to the slaves than anybody else. And
maybe.
Tosfot says that in Europe there was fist fights among the slaves in Europe in the slave market because they wanted to be owned by Jews because they knew that they would be treated much nicer.
Okay, but let me look to see when was slavery abolished in 1833. No, it's not so like in Europe, it's the 19th century. I'm sure France and Germany are similar.
So 10 years before the US.
I know 10 years, like 30
You
years.
said 1853 instead of 1863.
No, 1833. 1833.
China abolished slavery in 19.
China 1910. There you go. Russia probably never.
Yeah, president.
No, I mean it's just what?
But like you said, it was not the Jewish value. It was just the way the world lived at that time.
Poor guys.
Vayihi, exactly right. So now Vayihi kol yimei Noach 950 shana v'yamot. So now Noach lived to 950 years old. And now we come to another passage, a very, very controversial passage. A very controversial passage. This is the passage known as the generation of the Tower of Babel, or in Hebrew it's called the Dor HaFlaga, the generation of the dispersion. So let's skip a little bit to that, to the generation of the dispersion. That's chapter 11. Chapter 11. Vayhi kol haaretz tafachat udvarim achadim. One of the big questions that we ask about the generation of the dispersion is, what was their sin? What was their sin? The whole land was one tongue and a common unified words. So Rashi says that what was the one language? What was the first language of the Jewish people? What was the first language of the world?
Lashon HaKod.
Right, exactly right, Elon. That everybody spoke, Adam spoke to even Hebrew. That was the language.
Was it the same Hebrew that we have now, or was it like an archaic?
You think that they said like, aloe, or
I mean, it might be like a little different because like even English has evolved over the past like.
The modern Hebrew is not the same as the biblical Hebrew.
But it's like the same letters, right?
Like that's also a question. Is it even the same letters? That I was doing this in the Kesed HaSofer, that the Kesed HaSofer says, this is the book about Safras, that you're not allowed to write you're not allowed to write you're not allowed to write the Torah is written in what's called Ktav Ashuris. The Gemara tells us that there's different languages or different scripts. There's what's called Ktav Ashuris and Ktav Ivris. The Torah was given in Ktav Ivris and then it was transferred to Ktav Ashuris. And that's the language, that's the way the Torah is written. And you're not allowed to take Ktav Ashuris and use it to write things that are not sacred. Like let's say you want to just write a newsletter to the yeshiva. You can't do that with the script of the Torah. That's what the Torah was not given in the same script that we're writing in it now. And you can anyway see that if you look at the ancient writings, the ancient Hebrew I mean, it's close enough, but it's
I've seen old Hebrew like tablets or the Dead Sea Scrolls. They have that type of Hebrew, I think.
Yeah, for sure. So okay, so what was the sin of this generation? Let's look at Rashi. Oh, wait, I want to read this footnote here. All languages other than the Holy Tongue, with which God created the world, are hybrids, composed of original elements and words adopted. Oh, wow. A participant has set the speaking language here to English. I just gotta, because I was talking about language, so the Zoom popped that up. All languages other than the Holy Tongue are hybrids composed of original elements and words adopted from other languages. Even most ancient languages include words whose origin lies in another language. Therefore, the only language that could be called the one language, pure of any foreign traces, is the Holy Tongue, the Hebrew of the Scripture. But that's not actually, I have a problem with that, because the Torah itself has some words that come from other languages. For example, there are Aramaic words, 2 Aramaic words in the Torah, Yigar Sadusa, but there are other words which Rashi tells us are taken from another language, like the word totafot for the tefillin. Rashi says is in Afrikaani, who says, and also then there are other words that Rashi says come from other languages. So it's not, I don't know, it's a little bit difficult for me to understand it. Okay, and the whole world had one language, which was Hebrew, with Varim Achadim, and they all had a common purpose. What is that? They had one plan of action. Rashi says right at the beginning, their plan was to do damage to the world. What was their plan? Anybody remember? What was their plan?
They're gonna attack God, right?
Very good, Elon. They said, Lo koemenu sheyavorlo es al-yonim. They said, let's go up to the heaven and wage war against God. Alternatively, the Dvarim Achadim means Ayichido Shel Olam. They were attacking the unique one of the world. A third approach was what was going on with them. They said, a third approach was that they said, Achas la'elef v'sheish me'os chamishim v'sheish shanim. Once every 1,656 years, the heavens collapse, just like they did in the days of the flood. But come on, let's make supports for it. Okay, let me just stop here. But so they said they were worried about another flood, but I have another thing to tell everybody. You're gonna find this very interesting. I'm gonna stop this.